and you're listening to The Drive with Chey and Pav.
On Voice Ed Radio.
You know what, Pav? Since I love the expansion of this space.
Yep.
The inclusion of the guest callers.
Yep.
The booked-in author guests.
Yep.
And I can't stand how more difficult the board is to run and all the different buttons I need to push and all the different my hands are all over the place. Buttons here, faders there, computer on the screen, and I'm trying to sip my coffee. This is tough.
You know what? We have done a really good job of learning how to use this board from very simple things and then expanding outwards. Remember when it was just two knobs that we were controlling? And now we have buttons that we can push with pre-recorded sounds.
I'm all about pushing people's buttons.
Oh, I know that. I know that firsthand. And so I think we're getting better at it, and we're taking phone calls pretty regularly now.
I don't know if we're getting better. We better put a poll out there on the Twitterverse. Are we getting better getting these calls in and on? I don't think we're quite there yet, but we're getting there.
I think so.
But the guests have been
yeah,
so high quality.
Very high quality, and it's very humbling that people want to come on to the drive and talk to us and promote their stuff, because that's what we are all about. And so we're thankful that people are giving us the opportunity to allow us to do that.
Are we ready?
I think we're ready.
There's no surprise now. We've been promoting this one for days.
That's right. So let's get Dr. Kevin Leichtman and Dr. Anala Leichtman on with us. Hey guys, are you there?
Yeah. Hi. How are you?
Hey, everyone.
How's it going? Thank you so much. You sound great. So I think we're doing a good job of getting better with the sound.
Agreed.
Hey, you guys are crushing it.
Thank you. So where are you guys calling in? Let's start there from.
We're calling from Boca Raton, Florida. So expecting a little storm coming our way now. So we're just kind of bracing for that with everything else.
Uh-oh. Yeah, was that a metaphorical?
Just bring the actual hurricane to us.
Yes.
Yes, that's right.
You have a real hurricane.
A real hurricane, yes.
So let's talk about this book, The Teacher's Guide to the Mental Edge. And we know, we've been lucky, Kevin, that we actually watched you give a presentation recently with Rio Hondo, and it was so poignant and it was so specific, and it was so great as a teacher to say, oh, I can take this, I can definitely use that. Ooh, I like this over here. My sketch notes, although incredibly messy, are very, very useful. Mm-hmm. And Pav, why don't you set us up with the first question here about the book?
Yeah, actually, we had a great time listening to the presentation and reading the book. And, it makes us want to wonder, what led to it? How did you come up with the idea for writing this book?
So I know for us, when we started writing, we were both grad students. We were also working as teachers at different levels in the field. And we realized we were our own work in progress. We were trying to finish our studies, develop our pedagogy, even grow our family at that point. And, somehow at the end of the journey, you look at it and you see our degrees are finished. We've made a considerable impact on our students, and they're telling us this. And we've even got a beautiful son, at the end of the deal as well. And you think back and you're like, how did I make it to the end of this? How did I achieve these results? And you realize it's just not just your ability to stick with something, but really make a conscious effort to refocus your energy and pay attention to your goals. And I think the practical part came when Kevin actively applied the sports mindset principles to keep him focused and motivated when he studied for comp. Mm-hmm. And understood that there wasn't just a need in the field for mindset training and development among our students and peers, but really there was a space for it, and we just had to create that. And the book was one way to do that. And then when we really thought about where the sports psych and our own research, Kevin with respect to burnout and me with respect to culturally responsive pedagogy intersect, we really saw how we could keep our students not only motivated to achieve a goal, but help them learn about themselves and their world and overcome some of those challenges or stressors that might, be in the way of their success or impede their success. And we really try our best to emphasize the importance of reflection in the book for students and teachers, so they think about their experiences, what they bring into their classrooms every day, what they carry with them every day, and what they've learned from them, how they've grown, how they've changed, how they've been challenged, and how they can use what they've learned to apply it to new, familiar, or even difficult situations, so that they're continuously working on developing resilience and confidence as they approach different situations.
I really I like all of that. I really like the idea that how you both took your different areas of study, and I jotted down the note, the fusion to come across with the mental edge, that it wasn't necessarily one clear tunnel path. It was this two areas of expertise, this two areas of studies, and you found a way to fuse them together, connect them together, see how they work together. And I thought that was really brilliant, and it really adds such depth to the work and to the message, because it's not solely on one path. Just so I found that as you were talking, I said I love that fusion of your two areas of expertise, the inclusive pedagogy, the sort of athletic mindset, bringing it together, or the burnout mindset, and bringing it together for this plan, this fusion of pedagogy. So I thought that was really a great takeaway.
And something that it made it fun for us, because as we're sitting here, we're developing a lot of this stuff over the kitchen table, just over our conversation. Hey, what are you researching? What are you working on? And, both of us being educators, but having some different expertise, it's really fun just to be able to have those dynamic conversations at home, and then think about, well, how can we bring this out to the world? How can we make this something that's accessible to everybody?
And sometimes when you study the different subjects in isolation of one another. So you have to make those connections on your own. And the students really help you see that, right? And the teachers help you see that when you think about their voices and their experiences. Those are the things that help you see, hey, this idea or this theory, this, not experience, but this thought process or trouble is similar to this one in another field. It's similar to this one in another aspect of life. So that was neat too, I think, in the development as well.
It is really, it's a fantastic way to, take some of the research that you're doing and then being able to pull those experiential learning opportunities from your classrooms and into it as well. And you can really see how it works in action. And I think that that's such an important piece as teachers when we're reading, books like this on mindset, where we can actually see how it looks in the classroom. And so that's very important, because that makes you really, engaged and empowered to try some of these things in your own classrooms too. So we love that. The fusion, first of all, from the two areas, and then, the way it looks in the classroom. I think that that's very important for teachers to be able to see as well.
Kevin.
Yes, sir.
When you did your presentation, one thing that you spoke a lot about was the goal setting and the student buy-in to goal setting. So I had this very specific question that I'd sort of jotted down when you did that presentation. Was you give so many great tips on sort of the flipped model of goal setting, which was an interesting concept, where we often talk about either goals and then there's no connection to the goals afterwards, or we wait till we've done a task and then start to sort of redirect, readdress. And you sort of had this flipped model, and I thought it was really beneficial. And the one thing I sort of wanted to just push on forward here is connecting it to our students, because the book is so valuable to making sure we're giving our students real practical things they can do. And not only students, teachers, educators, the context of the book is for anyone. Certainly, if you're active on Twitter and you pay attention, you have your Tuesday challenges that are a good reflection of what you're giving out in your book. And they're a good way for us as educators to take simple things, to do simple things to propel us forward. Let me give you a question for the classroom now. So how is it that you get your students to buy in and then stay committed to their goals on a long-term sustainable basis?
So, that's a really great question. And, it has been a really fun journey doing this with my students, and then seeing other teachers do it with their students. Things like that Toughness Tuesday challenge is really a good summary of how it works, because what you're doing is getting people out of their comfort zone, and you're challenging them to grow. So when we talk about goal setting, this whole flipped model idea is we don't start with the goal. And that's usually what a teacher does, because, we're not really trained on goal setting, right? A lot of service programs don't talk about how do you help your students set goals? How do you set your own goals? So we actually start by setting our priorities, right? So when you talk to your students and you say, what goals do you have? You really have to start with, what are your priorities? What are the things that are most important to you? And if your goals are not stemming from your priorities, they're not going to mean much to those students, right? So once you start with priorities, then we can talk about goal setting. And that's when we make those short, achievable goals. And the key to those goals is we're not focusing on the result, right? I tell my students this all the time. I don't really care what your result is. That's not the part that we get better. That's the part where we get to celebrate. right? So when we talk about our goals, I want to know, what are those action steps? What are the things that you can do every day to get you closer to those goals? Yeah, what progress are you making on a daily basis, on a consistent basis? And if we're celebrating the progress, and if we're making that the fun part and the part that should be achieved, hey, the results come. And usually the results crush the expectations that they had originally. But it has to be that focus on progress, and it has to stem from their priorities. So another thing that, I didn't mention this with the Rio Hondo chat, but when we think about, setting our priorities and then taking that and using it to set our goals, a lot of times our students might not have education as their top priority. They're students. They've got a lot going on. They're developing their own passions, their own interests. So one of our jobs is to show how their goals can really convert. So how can your work ethic in your classroom then relate to the work ethic that they're going to need to fulfill that passion, right? So, they might not set a goal that's, I want straight A's. And that's okay. As a teacher, you have to say, let's keep it true to your passion and to the thing that you love most. And then we're going to use that to say, okay, what can we do in the classroom to support that mission that you have outside the classroom?
That's, again, so many nuggets. I had to go back. I got 2 notebooks going now. I got my notebook for today, and I've reopened my notes from your presentation just to add a few. I just loved it. One, I love the bonus material from what wasn't at Rio Hondo, and then the connection to priorities to goal setting, that if you rush to just establish goals, if they're not connected to a priority, then they're just going to become frivolous, or you're not going to maintain that long-term sustainable commitment to those goals.
Yeah, actually, I was thinking about that as well when you're talking about priorities. We're talking about kids, and I know that as teachers, we often talk about our why for teaching. What makes, what do we take importance in, and why do we do what we do? And students may not necessarily understand the concept of the why at their age, but they do understand their priorities. They do understand what is most important to them, and mentioning that school may not be their priority, that's like a light bulb moment for a lot of teachers, I think, because you expect students to all come to school and want to do well at school, but that's not necessarily something that's at the top of their minds. That's not necessarily every student's priority. And so, thinking about it in that way, that this student in front of me may not be thinking about, I really need to do well on this. Well, no, they might be thinking about, excelling in a particular sport, or playing an instrument, or taking care of their family members. And so there's so many different places that our students come from, and looking at it that way also helps us as educators to better be able to serve our students too when we are thinking about that. So I think that was really key and very important to think about.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's hard for a teacher to let go of that idea that academics are the most important thing in the world. Because for us, that's our job. That's what's most important. Yeah.
You're concerned with the professional image. And I think once you start telling yourselves and your students, I'm bringing my life into the classroom, please share your experience with me so I can help you mediate that, and navigate that a bit so that we can excel in whatever way is necessary, right? It humanizes the student, humanizes the teacher, and creates a sense of empathy between the two parties.
Right. And, the more you let go as a teacher and say, I want to know more about your experience, the more power that your students actually obtain, the more they're empowered, the more they're able to do. And usually, the more they achieve in your class and in all of their classes, because now they feel valued, they have voice, and they're learning how to use it even more. So, it ends up being a win-win, but it starts with that giving up control, where a lot of teachers will say, what's your goal? Make it an academic goal. Make it at least a 3.0. And, you have to give up control.
What matters to you? What's meaningful to
you?
Yeah.
I love that connection to the priorities and the goal setting. All right, Anala and Kevin, I got the tough question now. How do you jointly write a book over the kitchen table? How does that process go? When there's tensions, how do they get worked out? Is there someone that does the writing, the editing? Did you split up chapters? What's the process like of writing that book jointly?
So I think we really had to tap into what our strong suits were there. I know Kevin has a less technical voice than
Yeah.
I do. So he did a lot of the writing with respect to presentation of our ideas, and I did a lot of the organizing and outlining, right, as far as what topics we would include and how to streamline it a bit. And then, he would make it presentable in such a way that it's personable and it's easy to read and things like that. I don't know that we argued about what went into
really.
it. I think that's something, maybe because we started off as classmates first.
Yeah.
So that we were used to one another's work ethic and quirks.
Yeah, it's definitely quirks on my end.
And just how each of us approached a project, that we just understood, okay, maybe this how we should have split up the task, right?
Yeah, and I mean, even with our curriculum, not just the book, we really did the curriculum in the same way, where she would write out these fantastic objectives and standards and how we're going to approach it. And then I would say, okay, how do I turn this into a lesson that a student wants to hear?
Right.
And, we just play off each other really well because we know what our strengths are, we know what our weaknesses are, and we just, we support each other phenomenally, I think.
I think we know which sides of the pedagogical coin we like to be on too, where I like to do the theory and he likes to dabble in the practice more. So that's, those are parts of our comfort zones that we're learning to come out of as well, which is also helpful in getting that student buy-in.
We always love hearing about dynamic duos and how they come across. And you gave great detailed explanation. All I heard was Kevin does push-ups.
Well, Chey, you and me, that's our side of the coin, right?
Yes. When Pav and I do a podcast or do some research or do some writing, it's always, Pav was organized, had the ideas, and I was just, working with my band routine on the side.
It's just working out.
Guys, it has been great to have you join us on The Drive, our first author segment. Love the book, The Mental Edge. Please tweet it out for us, tag us so we can retweet it so people can get a look at it and get a hold of it. It's so practical. It's so usable. It's so great to connect to your teaching practice. So we've had a great time diving in the book. We've had a great time talking to you guys both today, and we've had a great time listening to you present other times.
Absolutely. And something that I really loved about the book is that it is very user-friendly and practical, and there's lots of lesson plan templates, there's lots of checklists, there's lots of lists to follow, and so it makes it very easy to just take and implement into your classroom. So that makes it very, very teacher-friendly.
Yeah, thank you. That was something really important to us. We're teachers, we're practicing still, so we know what it's like to try to read a book while you're trying to be in the classroom and, keep rolling. So we wanted to make it very easy to consume the information, but also very valuable.
Perfect. All right. Well, before we say goodbye to you guys, we would love, it is a book theme today, and we've got some music that relates back to books. And, if it doesn't necessarily have to relate entirely back to books or even a feeling, but you could relate it back to writing your book as well. So, do you guys have a song that you'd like to?
I got to cut in for a second.
Yeah, sure.
It better be the song you requested last night on Twitter, or I don't have it queued up.
Surprise! I changed my mind.
Yeah, don't change your mind. That's not how it works on live
We want to know
radio.
how you think, but not right now. We want to know how you think yesterday.
Yeah. So what's that song that you told us about earlier?
Well, we wanted to get into a strong mindset and have everybody out there thinking about their own mindset and how we can really empower ourselves. So let's hear Roar by Katy Perry.
Love it. Love it. I think we can do that. Here's Roar by Katy Perry.
All right. Thank you guys for your time.
Thank you so much, guys.